Hey there everybody, it's Mike DiLisio, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Ratcatcher from designer Matthew Aslan and publisher Platypus Industries. In The Ratcatcher you are playing, surprise surprise, a ratcatcher, and you are trying to capture rats and collect magic cheese before those very same rats are collecting that cheese from out underneath you, or the nemesis rat deals you a bunch of damage. So let's head over to the table. I'll show you how the game is set up and played. Then we'll come back here and I'll give you my final thoughts. Okay, here we see the beginning stages of the Ratcatcher. I don't even have the setup complete because I kind of want to show you how that works. It'll give you a little idea on other things that are going to happen that I'll be describing. So the first thing you do is you would pick your Ratcatcher. In this case, I chose Madam Cage. It's the one that they suggest in the rule book that you start with if you've not played the game before. And this is going to give you a number of different pieces of information. It's going to give you their movement value. It's going to give you the number of attack dice, the number of health they have. It's going to give you some information about the traps that they can utilize, some of their special potions and things along those lines, and also some abilities. All right, so I've chosen Madam Cage here. I would go ahead and kind of fill up the spots as they show you here. That's my starting health, my starting movement. I'd put in my 5 attack dice that I begin the game with. These are all things that can be upgraded throughout the course of the game. And I would take my 3 traps, which is denoted right here, and put it right there. Also, my figure is on the start spot of this card. This is always going to be the beginning card of the game, and then we're going to add 2 township cards to it. I also am facing off against the Rat King. Here's the token for the Rat King. Also, here's the token for Madam Cage. There you can see a screen-printed wooden meeple. Same thing for the Rat King. All right. There are tokens for each of them, and you can choose to play as different characters. So perhaps you might play as the Ratcatcher Professor Fume, or Sister Constantine, Guildmaster Horace, the Pied Piper, Miss Black. All right. There are also different nemesis rats that you can play as. The Abyssal Rat, the Maw, and the backside of the Rat King also is another one. So these are different things that you can do to kind of change things up. Some of them are maybe a little bit more tricky to play than others, some a little more straightforward. All right, so placed there, what we're going to do is we're going to add 2 township cards to the map. And the way it works is that you have these connectors that you can kind of see here. These little arrows are connectors to the township card. So I'm going to connect to here. Let's say, and the orientation doesn't necessarily matter. I can do this, I can do this, I can do that. But just for purposes of framing for the camera, I think I'm going to put one of them right there. And then I'll take a second one and I will place it right here, okay? Now that you've got these 2 township cards that are added to the starting one, you're going to populate it. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the magic cheese that it shows here. These items are denoted by these little blue kind of sparkly, there you go, tokens. So I go ahead and place those. Magic cheese is the key to the game. The way that you win as the Ratcatcher is one of 2 ways. Either if you collect 10 magic cheese that you're going to be slotting onto your board to give you upgrades, you win the game. If you slay the nemesis rat, you win the game. The nemesis rat does not begin on the board in the game. It's something that'll be spawned after the rats would gain 4 pieces of magic cheese. How do you lose? You lose either by the rats collecting 10 magic cheese before you do, or your health going down to 0 by being attacked by the different rats that are going to be out there. So we've populated with the magic cheese. You also see a couple of these little question mark tokens. These are random, and I just go ahead and place these out and put whatever it shows on top of them. That's another magic cheese there. This is one of the yellow tokens that are going to go right there. We also have a pink token that goes here. Now, those have not been unlocked on my board, so right now they wouldn't be of much use to me, but if I did unlock them, I would go ahead and have an opportunity to pick those up. All right, the other thing we're going to be doing is spawning rats. You'll see there are 2 different types. let me just get one that's not in use and show you, all right? This symbol, this icon with the arrows kind of going circular like that, mean it's a rat's nest. And that means that it's going to always spawn a rat when you are doing rat spawnings. These are only when the card is placed. So right now, I'm going to be filling up all of these spots with rats, but in the future, when I'm spawning rats, it's only going to be the rat's nests that are going to do it. So we've got our bag here that is randomly filled with white, brown, and black rats, which are the common rats, and their stats are denoted right there. All right, so I would just go ahead and start filling these out. Now, the first one that came up is a black rat, and what that means is that I'm going to spawn another, oops, I don't know why that token is in there. I'm going to spawn another rat in that spot. Another one, no! I just keep spawning. There we go. Those are going to act as nests in the future if I don't deal with those. All right, so I just keep going. I keep going. There's another black rat. I am not doing well with that. So you're basically going to just be filling up all of these spots. And again, the rat's nests are always going to be where you spawn. These are only during setup, the ones without the little circular spots there. I keep pulling out black rats. This is not good. Oh my goodness. Maybe I should have shaken this bag a little bit better. This is a dangerous spot for me with all of these black rats coming out right away. Oh my goodness. Maybe I can look at it as an opportunity. I'm not. I'm going to look at it as terrifying. All right, so got these rats spawned here. And so what I would do on my turn is I would take the number of actions that I wanted to be able to try to get some things done. So the Ratcatcher turn here, it shows you the different things you can do. You can move using your movement value to gather cheese and to catch rats. You can manage your attack dice to attack as many rats as possible. You can cleverly lay traps to intercept the rat hordes and collect the cheese before the rats eat it all. Once it's unlocked, you can use the special abilities, and once unlocked, you can collect the tokens, as I said there, as I showed you here on the board. All right, so I start off with a movement of 5. Now, one of the things I can do is start looking at areas that I could potentially pick up some cheese. So I can move 2 spots to go here. So let's say that I do that. I spend 2 movement, 1, 2, and I move here. Now, moving through this rat is not a problem for me because it's a white rat. If it was a black rat, they have a particular ability called bitey. And it says whenever the Ratcatcher leaves a zone containing 1 or more of these rats, then they will bite. But they only have a bite value of 1, and I have a defense of 1. So if I moved through 1 of those rats, I would be fine. But what I'm going to do is stop right here, and I'm going to attack. I'm going to try to catch those rats. I have 2 of them here because I cannot pick up a magic cheese if there are any rats in the zone. So with 2 rats there, I'm going to try to roll 2 dice. I can choose however many of my attack dice I want. I have to roll a 4 or higher to catch those rats. So I'm going to hope I get very lucky here. I rolled a 3 and a 5. Okay, so the rats only have, they have no defense. All right, so I can look there and one hit catches them. So I caught one of these. I'll go ahead and catch this brown rat, and I'm going to put it in my tallyman's cage here. All right, that also lists how I can spend those rats later on this turn or future turns. All right, so 2 of those dice are spent. I really want to get that dice out of the zone. I roll again. I got a 2. That's not going to do it. I roll again. I get a 3. That's not going to do it. I roll again. I get a 5. All right, so I used all of my attack dice, but I collected 2 rats, and now I'm alone in a zone with a magic cheese, so I can pick that up. Now, right away, there are a number of different places on my board that I could slot this cheese to either give me upgrades or potentially unlock these abilities. So right now, I can place this either here or here to unlock the Dragnet ability or the Toxic Ruse, and it would also allow me to pick up that corresponding token if I wanted to. I could improve my health. I can move towards increasing my ability to capture rats, because right now it's a 4+, but if I were able to slot 2 cheese in there, it would now be at a 3+. So let's say I start working towards that because I know I need to catch rats. Another thing I can do is I have 3 movement left. So I could spend 1 movement, as it shows on my board here, to lay a trap. And that can either be in my spot or in an adjacent spot. So maybe I'm going to place a trap right there, and maybe I'm going to do it one more time, and I'm going to place a trap right there. All right? So I've captured one cheese. I have laid 2 traps. I could potentially move again, but I have no attack dice, so I don't know that there's really a reason for doing that. So I've taken my turn, all right? At this point, you would check to see if there were fewer than 2 magic cheese left on the board, and if so, you would expand the map. But we still have 1, 2, 3 magic cheese on active cards, which either mean cards that the Ratcatcher is on, cards that are adjacent to the Ratcatcher, or cards that contain magic cheese. So all of these cards are active cards right now. All right, so now it's going to move to the rat's turn, all right? And so they're going to do a number of different things. You're going to move the rats in the order of priority. First, a nemesis rat, which is not on the board yet. Then a peculiar rat, if any had come out on the board, and they are not out. And then the rats in order brown, black, and then white. Peculiar rats are rats that can be spawned. They have a particular token that goes along with them, and they have cards that denote what they do, and different abilities or rewards that you can get by capturing them. But there are none of those on the board right now. All right, so the rats would again move in the order of that it states, and they all have different targets, okay? The white rats and the black rats are targeting the magic cheese. The brown rats are targeting the Ratcatcher, okay? So they're coming after you trying to bite, all right? So the rats, the black rats and the white rats have a movement speed of 1 or movement value of 1, and the brown rats have a value of 2. So the brown rats are all coming after me, all right? They would come here. This one would go 1, 2. This one would go right here. These both would come towards me, all right? And then the black rats and then the white rats. And the black rats are going towards the cheese, okay? Boom, boom. These 2 are going to be going, again, towards the closest cheese. There's 1, 2. This one's closer to me, so they're going to come here. So I'm just not going to go through all of it, but they're all going to be moving. Then traps would spring, all right? So let's say that that one would stay there. Let's just spring both of these traps. So you flip it over, and you're rolling dice from your reserve, okay? And you're rolling 4 dice. That's what it shows here. And so you're trying to get these rats in your cage. You roll the dice, and you're trying to hit a 4+. I amazingly did not, so that trap was not any good. This one is going to go here. And we're going to do... Caught a couple of those. If you get a 6, that is an instant. So black rats, that's kind of like a critical hit, the 6s. Black rats do have a defense value of 1, so you would have to have 2 hits. But with a 6, you could get one of those. And so I can do a brown one. And then they would bite, all right? And we have 2 specific common rats that are left here. So they would both bite me. And while the black rat has a value of I have 1 to block it, the 2 brown rats, I could not block one of those, so I would take a hit. Even if there were 4 different brown rats in that spot, you would only ever take 1 damage if you get hit by them, all right? So this is what you're going to continue to do. You're going to be moving around the board, laying traps, attacking rats, collecting potions to hopefully give you abilities once you've unlocked them, upgrading your player board. Eventually, the Nemesis rat will likely spawn onto the board, and you're going to have to deal with them. You also can spend rats that you have caught, as I mentioned before, to give you some abilities, some bonuses, extra attack dice, extra health, even all the way up to magic cheese for 18 rats. So that's going to take you a little bit, but you can do that. Again, trying to be the first to either gain 10 magic cheese or slay the Nemesis rat before you either lose all of your health or the rats get their 10 cheese. All right, that gives you a general idea on how the game is played. Let's head over and I'll tell you what I think about it. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a general idea on how the Ratcatcher plays out. The first thing I want to do is talk about some solo benchmarks. These are things I like to discuss when I'm determining whether I'm going to get a solo game off the shelf or not. The first thing I like to talk about is a win-loss condition. Is it a beat your high score, or are you playing against an automated opponent? And in the case of the Ratcatcher, this is a solo-only game, and you have very clear win-loss conditions. It is not a high score variant at all. You are trying to collect that cheese before the rats collect the cheese, or before being defeated, losing all of your health from the rats, both the common rats, the peculiar rats, the nemesis rats. So very satisfying in that sense. You've got a clear win-loss condition. The other thing I like to do is talk about setup and tear down. And in the case of the Ratcatcher, it is a perfectly reasonable amount of time to set the game up. There is a little bit of time involved in having to put those rats out, put the tokens out, make sure they're all kind of aligned the correct way, but it's not out of the realm of normal. I would say it's a perfectly reasonable amount of time to set the game up and tear it down. The game has a nice insert, and so that also helps with the organization of the components, makes it quicker to set the game up and tear it down. The other thing I'd like to talk about is rules, and this is going to be a little bit of a big one for me here, because I feel like the heart of many of the concerns that I have with the game are tied up in the rule book. Simply put, I feel like the rules are substandard. They are not complete. I feel like there are a lot of items within that rule book that are either ambiguous or unclear, and there are a number of things that are just plain left out of the rule book that are left up to the player to determine how it works. That's a problem. It's a problem in the sense that I went to Board Game Geek and I printed off a kind of unofficial revised rule book to kind of maybe help with the process. But even with that, I'm left feeling not 100% sure that I'm playing the game entirely as designed. And that's frustrating, to put it mildly, to feel like you don't have confidence that you are playing the game exactly as it was meant to be played because the rule book is so unclear. I'm going to be talking a bit more about that when I get to the overall solo experience, but suffice to say the rule book needs a lot of work. I can't imagine that the game was blind play tested with that rule book. If so, then a lot of things were missed. All right. Art and components is another thing I like to talk about. And here I've got a lot of positive things to say. I love the art and aesthetic. Now, obviously, this is going to be a personal thing, but I think it's fantastic. I really feel like there is a unified look to the game. I feel like it is a well-developed and realized world that you're playing within in that game. And so I really like the art and aesthetic for the Ratcatcher. I think that the magic cheese tokens are great. The little sparkly kind of acrylic cheese tokens or plastic, I'm not sure what the material is, but I just know I like it. The little rat meeples are very cute, very fun. The screen printed wooden meeples that are used for your Ratcatcher and for the nemesis rats are fantastic. I'm a big fan, I've mentioned this a number of times, of screen printed wooden meeples. Keep them coming. I'm happy for those. You can apparently get an upgrade kit so that all of the peculiar rats have their own wooden tokens. I just have the little cardboard tokens. I think they're fine for my purposes. Actually, I'm not sure I would want those because things can already get a little bit cluttered. That's something I'm going to mention in a moment. A couple of things that didn't work as well for me in this department is that I felt like the iconography is not always super intuitive. I really feel like some of that could have been cleaned up. So the iconography wasn't the best. And as I mentioned a moment ago, it can get crowded on these cards because they're just on cards that you're basically laying out your map. And when a lot of rats, a lot of tokens, a lot of things kind of move because they're going to move, converge either towards the Ratcatcher or towards Magic Cheese, that can get a little bit crowded, a little bit tough to manage, and a little fiddly feeling. All right, for the overall solo experience, I'm going to first talk about some things that worked well for me and then some things that did not work as well for me, and they're going to Some of these are going to be continuations of things I've brought up. Positives. I love the theme. I feel like this is a unique theme that has not been utilized very much, and I appreciate that. I feel like mechanically this could have taken on a lot of different themes, but this works really, really, really well, and I appreciate it. I appreciate it that it is something that I have not seen many times before. I was excited about the game just purely off of the theme. It was one of the things that drew me to it. I also think it's a huge positive that this is a game that was designed for solo play. It's a solo-only game, and I appreciate that. You could have probably tried to turn this into a cooperative game. You could have maybe even tried to make it a competitive game. I don't know, but I appreciate the fact that this was designed from the ground up as a solo experience. As a solo player, I appreciate that. I feel like there were some clever ideas built within the design of the game, some things that maybe were a different approach to what I have seen before. And so I appreciate when things surprise me in the design. And some of the things in this game surprised me. The idea of the different types of rats, the peculiar rats, the nemesis rats, the common rats, all kind of having some similarities, not being so different that you were getting caught up with them, but different enough that you felt like you had different things to consider in your decision-making process. So I did like some of the little design elements. Some things that did not work as well for me. The game feels a bit one note, meaning that one game did not feel tremendously different from the next. Now, there are certainly things that are randomized that change things up. Obviously, the layout of the map is going to be different from game to game based on which cards come out, but not that different. The Ratcatcher that you choose and the nemesis rat you play against are different, but not that different. Essentially, one game feels like the rest. That is what I found. The strategy to win is really essentially not going to be all that different from one game to the next, I have found. And so it felt a little one note. I'm sorry, but I have to come back to this again. This is my biggest issue with the game. The rules are just not where they need to be. They are not where they need to be. I know that this is something that has been a bit of a soapbox, perhaps, for me, but I feel like I need to keep doing it. You have to make sure that anybody can pick up and play your game solely from the rule book. I don't feel like you could confidently play this game feeling like you know you got everything right just with the rule book. You cannot assume that players are going to go off and find how to play videos, are going to go on to Board Game Geek and look at FAQs. Sure, errors are going to happen, mistakes are going to slip through. Nobody is perfect. I'm not saying that. But there are some fundamental issues with this rule book that make it difficult to play. The examples, the illustrated examples that are given in the rule book don't work for me at all. I was more confused after looking at the illustrated examples than I was just in reading the text. And I don't think that's the point. The point of an illustrated example is to clarify, is to expand upon what you're reading. I felt more confused by looking at many of these illustrated examples. They were difficult to read a lot of times. There was too much going on in a small amount of space. And also some things just were unclear. And so the rules really need to be addressed. And that kind of comes to a larger issue. I feel like there's a great game, potentially a great game kind of hidden here. I feel like it needs more development. I feel like there maybe, I don't know if a second edition would be coming, but in addition to the rule book, I just feel like some things could have been cleaned up. Some things that maybe through play testing and feedback could have been cleaned up. Things along the lines of a bit of the procedural element. The game felt a bit too procedural for me where, okay, I've got to move all of these rats, but I have to move them all in a very particular order. And I have to make sure that, okay, have I moved this rat already? I haven't, no, okay. I just feel like some of that could have been cleaned up, maybe a little bit more elegant, that maybe could have been dealt with, and maybe still could be. I don't know. As it is, I feel like the game is fine. I just wish that, I feel like it's just missing the mark. And so that's where my score is going to be. I'm going to be coming in at a 6.5 out of 10. I can't quite recommend it as it is, but I feel like it's so close. I feel like it's so close to being something more than it is right now. If the rules could be cleaned up, if some of the rough edges could be sanded off, if a little bit more variation from game to game could come in, where it feels like one game is a little bit more dynamic and feels a little different than the rest. It's right on the edge there. There's a lot of things about the game I like, but not enough that I could fully give it my recommendation. So a 6.5 out of 10 for me. All right, well, there you have it. That is the Ratcatcher. This is Mike DiLisio signing off from Dice Tower headquarters.